Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time we're going to be taking a look at Messier, M87.
Okay.
A really ambitious project that's kind of like building an entire galaxy
Uh,
of interconnected crypto products and services, all powered by, of course, the M87 token. So it's kind of creating this, universe of dApps, NFTs, even real-world applications.
yeah, and it's all sort of designed to work together, right?
Yeah.
They're not just trying to build a bunch of separate tools, but really create that kind of like seamless integrated user experience,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like building out the infrastructure for like a decentralized future.
exactly.
So to
Yeah.
kind of kick things off, I think we should go straight to the core of this, this galaxy, and that's the Virgo DAO.
Right.
It sounds like it plays a pretty crucial role in how this whole ecosystem functions.
Yeah, absolutely. The Virgo DAO is really the heart of Messier.
Okay.
And it's designed to function like a digital cooperative.
Okay.
So what it does is it collects fees from the different dApps in the ecosystem,
Okay.
and then it distributes rewards to the M87 token holders.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's not just like, passive income, the top 87 stakers.
Right.
They actually get to propose changes
Okay.
to the DAO, and every token holder gets a vote.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
instead of just holding a token, you're really participating in the decision making.
You're part of the governance process.
Yeah. So what kind of impact
Yeah.
does that 12.13% reward distribution have? Is that a good rate, like compared to other DAOs?
Yeah, that's something to consider for sure. But,
Okay.
the thing is, the returns are really going to depend on a lot of different factors, right?
Right.
So the success of the projects that the DAO invests in,
Mm-hmm.
the overall market conditions, all of that plays a role. So it's not just about looking at the percentage, but also understanding, how everything else is working.
Okay. So it's about the bigger picture, not
Yeah.
just the number.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's move on to something else that I think is interesting about this project, and that's the Messier Objects NFTs.
Right.
They seem to offer, a kind of unique proposition
Yeah.
combining, art with investment.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about these is they're not just about owning the digital art.
Okay.
So holding one of these Messier Objects NFTs
Okay.
actually grants you a share of that 12.13% distribution from the MTT pool,
Right.
plus an extra 0.87%
Okay.
from the MOTT pool following each successful DAO investment.
Okay. So you get a little bit of, like financial return on
Yeah.
top of
It's a bonus.
owning the art.
Exactly.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious, does the value of these NFTs, does that fluctuate based on how well the DAO's investments are doing?
That's a really good question.
Okay.
And it is something to consider.
Yeah.
Right. So the value is going to depend on, how appealing the art itself is, how people see the project, and of course the success of those DAO investments.
Right. So it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a mix of things.
It's very dynamic.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, so let's move on and talk about another thing that kind of stood out to me, which is OpenHatch,
Okay.
which they're calling like a dApp that simplifies real-world asset and service sales through Web3,
Right.
or even just through Telegram.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how does that benefit like an everyday person, someone
Yeah.
like me?
Right. So imagine you want to sell something online,
Right.
like a used camera, or you offer your services as a graphic designer.
Right.
OpenHatch is going to give you this secure and transparent platform to do that, but using blockchain technology.
Okay.
So it's using escrows and proof of work to make sure that, both the buyer and the seller are protected in those transactions.
So it's like instead of relying on
Exactly.
traditional platforms, this is a decentralized alternative.
Exactly.
But is it really user-friendly? Like Web3 and blockchain still feel a little, intimidating to some people.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But it seems like Messier is trying to address that by offering this service not only through a dApp, but also through a Telegram bot.
Okay.
So that could make it a lot more accessible to people who aren't familiar with like Web3 interfaces.
Right.
But, it really all comes down to how easy it is to use and how many people actually start using it.
Right. So making it accessible is key.
Exactly.
Okay. Let's talk about privacy,
Okay.
because I think that's becoming increasingly important in the crypto world.
For sure.
And Messier has a Zscaler snark anonymization service called Horizon,
Right.
which sounds very high-tech.
It is some really cool technology.
Yeah, can you break that down for us a little bit?
Yeah, so Zk snarks, it's a type of cryptography, and what it does is it basically allows for untraceable token transfers. So it's kind of like sending a secret message that only the recipient can understand.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I could send, M87 tokens to someone, and no one, not even the blockchain, would know where those tokens came from or went.
Yeah.
That's wild, but how do we know it's
Yeah.
secure?
So it's important to note that while privacy is a big feature here, Horizon is still designed to be compliant.
Okay.
They mentioned that it's been validated by Biosin, which is a pretty respected blockchain auditor.
Okay.
So that should provide some reassurance to people who are, worried about security and misuse.
Right, so they're finding a balance between,
Yeah.
privacy and compliance.
Yeah, it's a tough balance to strike, but they seem to be doing it.
Gotcha. All right, now let's dive into something that's a little bit different, which is the AI GPU nodes platform.
Okay.
And I'm kind of intrigued by this idea of being able to rent out your unused GPU power.
Yeah, it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
So basically, if you have like a gaming PC with a powerful graphics card, you can essentially rent out that processing power to people who need it for AI tasks.
Interesting.
So it's a potential revenue stream for people with those idle GPUs, and it gives people access to that processing power that they might not be able to afford otherwise.
Yeah, like an Airbnb for GPUs or something.
Exactly.
So how does Messier ensure fair pricing and that it's a secure and efficient, exchange of that processing power?
Yeah, they say they've developed an AI algorithm that manages the marketplace.
Okay.
And matches supply and demand.
Okay.
But, again, the effectiveness and the transparency of that algorithm, that's something to look into.
Yeah, we got to do our research.
For sure.
All right, so we've seen DAOs, NFTs, real-world asset integration, privacy solutions, and now this AI GPU marketplace.
Yeah.
So Messier is really aiming for a broad reach here.
It's ambitious.
It really is.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Adastra,
Okay.
which they're calling this all-encompassing kind of point-of-sale solution for crypto transactions.
Yeah, the idea here is to really bridge the gap between crypto and everyday transactions.
Okay, so what can you actually do with Adastra? It mentions anonymous cross-chain swaps. So I can swap Bitcoin for Ethereum within the app
Exactly.
without having to go through an exchange.
Yeah, and they highlight that it all happens anonymously
Wow.
using that same ZK snark technology you were talking about.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And it also looks like they've got features for buying, selling, and managing your NFTs
Exactly.
all in the same place.
All of one app.
So it's an exchange, a marketplace, and a wallet
Right.
all rolled into one, but with added privacy.
Exactly.
That's pretty ambitious.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking for sure.
What about actually using crypto for everyday purchases,
So that's where it gets really interesting, right?
Okay.
Because they're offering both virtual and physical crypto cards.
Okay.
So you could potentially use your crypto at, grocery stores, pay bills, even send money internationally.
So that's making crypto usable in real life.
That's the goal.
But that seems really hard to implement.
It is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of hurdles.
Okay. Let's talk about the Messier P2P exchange and its Telegram bot extension.
Okay.
And what's kind of unique about this is it says it eliminates all the downsides of traditional exchanges,
Right.
like MEV risks, token taxes, slippage, all those hidden costs.
It's a bold claim.
Yeah, and it does that by letting users trade directly with each other without an intermediary.
Right.
But is that actually possible in a decentralized setting? What are the trade-offs there?
That's the big question, right?
Yeah.
It sounds great, but you have to understand the technical details and what the potential risks are.
Right.
Peer-to-peer trading has its advantages.
Yeah.
But there are also challenges, things like security,
Right.
liquidity, and the potential for scams.
Okay, so it's all about weighing the pros and cons.
Yeah.
So, we've seen just this incredible range of features here.
It's a lot.
A DAO, NFTs, integrating with real-world assets, privacy service,
Right.
an AI GPU marketplace, a multifunctional crypto app,
That's right.
and now a P2P exchange.
It's like their own little decentralized universe.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's they're trying to build a one-stop shop for all your crypto needs.
Yeah, they're going for it.
Yeah.
Big time.
And of course, we can't forget about the M87 token
Right.
that's powering this whole ecosystem.
The fuel for the whole thing.
So we're going to dive into that a little bit more in part 2 of this deep dive.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right.
Fine.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. So the M87 token, it's kind of like the fuel for this whole Messier ecosystem.
Yeah, it's the lifeblood of this whole galaxy they're building.
Right.
So, like, how does it actually work?
So it's a utility token, right?
Okay.
Which means you can actually use it for stuff within the ecosystem.
Like governance, staking, accessing premium features,
Yeah.
and of course, transactions on their different platforms.
So it's not just like a, like a meme coin or something. It actually has like utility.
It has a purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just about speculation.
Right. What about the value? Like, how is the price of the token determined?
Well, like most cryptos, it's influenced by supply and demand, market sentiment, how people are feeling about it.
Yeah.
And then the overall success of the Messier project.
Okay.
But they also have a built-in deflationary mechanism.
Deflationary. What's that?
Yeah. So basically, any ETH that exceeds 87 tokens in the DAO treasury triggers a buy and burn of M87 tokens.
So they use that excess ETH to buy back their own tokens.
Yeah, they buy them back and then they burn them. They're gone forever.
Oh, wow. So the supply of M87 decreases over time.
Exactly.
Okay. And that's supposed
that can
like potentially increase the value.
It can put upward pressure on the price.
Of the remaining tokens.
Right.
Okay, but that's not...
But it's not a guaranteed
thing.
There are no guarantees in crypto.
Right.
But it is a mechanism that can help.
Right. It incentivizes holding the token. Yeah. Okay. Now, they also mention this 10-year liquidity lock by UNCX Network for the M87 token.
Right.
What does that tell us about, like, the project's long-term vision?
So a liquidity lock is basically a commitment by the project team to hold a certain amount of tokens for a specific period of time.
Okay.
And in this case, it's 10 years, which is a pretty long time.
Yeah, that's a big commitment.
It is.
So it's like... They're saying, we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, they're not looking for a quick cash grab.
It does inspire like some confidence.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've talked a lot about what they're building today, but what about the future? Like, what's on their roadmap?
So one of the big things they're working on is introducing these fixed market rate pools and multi-chain features for their P2P platforms.
So it's just giving more options and flexibility to traders.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. What about OpenHatch? Any updates on that platform?
Yeah, they're talking about a big revamp of the OpenHatch DApp.
Okay.
Specifically for RWA transactions.
And so if they can make that even easier to use, and more secure,
that could be huge.
That could be a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the NFTs? Are there any like new features coming for those?
Yeah, they're going to introduce an NFT bidding feature on Virgo.
Okay.
Which will let collectors, bid on those rare and valuable NFTs.
So making that marketplace more interactive.
Right, more dynamic, more exciting.
Okay, cool. Any plans to like enhance the Virgo DAO itself?
Yeah, they're working on an L2 voting mechanism.
Okay.
And Solana DAO investments.
And those are to make the DAO more efficient.
Yeah, it's all about making it more responsive to the community.
Okay. Anything else on the roadmap that stood out to you?
Oh, yeah. They mentioned a T1 and T2 exchange listing.
Okay.
For the M87 token.
And what does that mean?
So that means the token's going to be available on major crypto exchanges.
Okay.
Which gives it a lot more visibility.
Right.
And
it's more accessible to people.
Exactly.
Okay. So they have a lot on their plate.
Yeah, they're busy.
Is it realistic?
No.
Like, is it achievable?
It's hard to say for sure, right?
Yeah.
It depends on a lot of things.
Okay.
Can they find good developers? Can they make the right partnerships? Can they deal with the regulations?
Right.
And can they build a strong community?
So execution and community are key.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, after seeing all these features and the roadmap, what makes Messier like truly unique?
What really stands out to me is just how broad their vision is, right? They're not just focused on one little piece of the crypto world. They're trying to create this whole ecosystem that includes DeFi, NFTs, real world stuff, and all that cutting edge tech like AI and ZK snarks.
It's almost like they're trying to build like the Apple or the Amazon of the decentralized world.
Like a one-stop shop for all your crypto needs.
Right. But is that even possible?
A bold vision.
Yeah.
And the crypto space is super competitive.
Yeah.
A lot of projects are trying to be the top dog.
Right. It's a race to the top.
It is.
So what are like some of the challenges they might face?
I think one of the biggest challenges for any project like this is complexity.
Okay.
Right. They're doing so much.
Yeah.
That it's going to be tough to make sure everything works together smoothly.
Yeah, it's like juggling a dozen balls at once.
Exactly. You can't drop any of them.
You got to keep them all in the air.
What about regulatory risks? Crypto is still kind of like the Wild West.
Right. But that's changing.
Yeah.
And regulatory uncertainty is a big risk for any project.
Yeah.
So Messier needs to be smart about navigating that.
It's about finding that balance.
Yeah. Between
Pushing the boundaries and staying within the lines.
and not getting in trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And what about security?
Security is always a top concern in crypto.
Yeah. Because they're dealing with,
Especially when you're talking about people's money.
yeah, people's money and data.
Yeah. You have to be really careful.
Right.
Invest in audits, do penetration testing.
Right. Because if they have even one security breach,
It could be devastating.
that could really hurt them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And what about competition? I mean, there are so many other crypto projects out there.
Yeah. There's a ton of competition.
So how do they stand out?
They need to make it clear what makes them special,
Okay.
what they offer that nobody else does.
Gotcha. So it's really a constant race to stay relevant.
Yeah, you got to keep innovating.
Okay. So, wrapping up this deep dive, what are your final thoughts on Messier M87?
It's a project with a lot of potential,
Okay.
but also, some big challenges ahead. You've got a bold vision, cool features, and ambitious plans. But it all comes down to execution, community support, and being able to adapt.
It's definitely one to watch.
It is. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah. What advice would you give to our listeners who are thinking about exploring Messier further?
I always say the same thing, right?
Yeah.
Do your own research.
Right.
Don't just take our word for it.
Okay.
Look at their white paper, check out their website, join their community, and make up your own mind.
Knowledge is power.
It is.
Okay. And also, never invest more than you can afford to lose.
Yeah, that's crucial.
Right.
Crypto can be risky.
Yeah.
Be smart about it.
Great advice. Okay, well, thank you so much for taking the time to, share your insights with us today.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been a really fascinating deep dive into this world of Messier.
That's a cool project.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be keeping an eye on their progress.
Yeah, me too.
And seeing if they can achieve these ambitious goals.
It's going to be an interesting journey for sure.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it really is fascinating to see how this whole space is developing.
Yeah, and what's interesting about Messier is they seem to really get the importance of community.
Yeah, I noticed that too. They have a really active presence on Telegram and Discord.
Exactly. They're always talking to their community.
Yeah.
Answering questions.
Yeah.
Addressing concerns.
And they're not just hyping up the project, right?
No, they're actually taking the time to teach people about the technology.
Right.
And, explain the risks.
Yeah, I appreciate that because a lot of projects are just focused on, shilling their tokens and making big promises.
Exactly.
But Messier seems to be trying to build a real community.
Yeah, like a community of informed users.
Yeah.
Who really get what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's what's going to make or break a project in the long run.
Absolutely. It's not just about the tech.
Right.
It's about the people.
Yeah, okay, so before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to touch on something that I've been thinking about.
Sure. What's that?
We've talked about all the cool things that Messier is building.
Right.
But we got to remember, this is still a pretty young project.
That's true. It's early days.
Yeah.
And the crypto space changes so fast.
Exactly. So there's no guarantee that they can actually deliver on everything.
Right. And no guarantee that their vision will, totally pan out.
Yeah. And the crypto market is super volatile.
Yeah.
So there are all these external factors that could affect them.
Absolutely. Even if they do everything right.
Right. So while we're excited about Messier,
yeah,
we got to be realistic.
Yeah. Don't get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. And a little bit cautious.
Always good to be cautious.
Okay, so to wrap up this deep dive into Messier M87, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that Messier is a really interesting experiment.
Okay.
In decentralized innovation.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
They're trying to build something that could change the way we think about finance and tech and even the real world.
Yeah, so it's a vision worth exploring.
Absolutely. Even if you're not ready to invest yet.
Right. It's about understanding what they're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And, this deep dive is hopefully giving you a good starting point.
Yeah.
But it's up to you to keep learning.
Right. We've got some links in the show notes to help you do that.
Yeah. And remember,
okay,
stay curious, ask questions, never stop learning.
Great advice. Well, it's been awesome exploring Messier with you today.
Likewise, I've enjoyed it. It's a
Yeah.
fascinating project.
And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for tuning